Hi, I'm Jamey from Stonemaier Games, and today I'm going to talk about my favorite mechanism in the game Thunder Road Vendetta, which I played with a total of 3 players at a convention recently and had a lot of fun with it. Here's what Thunder Road looks like on the table. So it's kind of like a Mad Max style race through the desert usually. And the game can end when someone crosses the finish line, which I believe is 5 of these big tiles, crosses that finish line, or if all other players have been eliminated. And in our game, 2 players were eliminated, and the 3rd player won the game. I was one of those players that got eliminated. You might tune out when you hear that, player elimination, but this game plays a little bit like a movie. It's a very cinematic experience, and both players happen to be eliminated pretty much at the same time, so we weren't like sitting around waiting for a 3rd player to win. But even if that had happened, I think I still would have been engaged in watching the game. Thunder Road has a lot of little mechanisms that I like a lot. There's a dice placement system. So at the beginning of each round, you roll 4 dice, and you have those dice, and you use 1 die per car to activate that car. If your car is kind of knocked out of the race temporarily because you have 3 different cars, then you can use that car's die on another car for a smaller benefit. There's also, you can see right here, a little mat that you have for 4 different abilities where you can use the 4th die on that ability at some point during your turns. On your turn, you're only activating one of those cars or that ability along with the car. So I like that dice placement system a lot. The game also uses some custom dice for some really fun benefits. Like you might bump into a car. In fact, oftentimes you'll be slamming into a car, at which time you put your car on top of their car and you roll a die or 2 dice to show what happens next. Something will either happen to the car that's on top or the car that's on bottom based on the die that shows one of those 2 cars. And then the car on the bottom gets knocked off in a certain direction using another die that shows the direction that car went. So it is one of these games where you interact a lot with the other players, but oftentimes when you're interacting with them, something bad could happen to you. So it's more like I'm going to do something and see what happens and hope that it doesn't hurt me, but it might hurt me and that it'll become a fun, memorable moment in the game. I think my favorite mechanism in the game is the use of parity for the small and the large cars. So you have 3 different cars. There's a large one, a medium one, and a small one. And I love in games, especially with dice, when there's a reason to use a lower value die or a higher value die. Both of them have meaning and value in the game. In this game, the game does that with dice a little bit, but more so with the size of the car. So again, I might think, I'm looking at this race and thinking, okay, the big cars must have a huge advantage. They're bigger than the other cars. They can't be bothered by the little cars. But that's not entirely true. The little cars can interact with any of the cars in the race. Both types of cars, both sizes of cars have different advantages. For example, when interactions happen with a larger car, the larger car, so if there's like a small car interacting with a large car, the large car has the choice to re-roll the dice that were just rolled. That's the advantage that the large car has. They have that. That's just what their advantage is. They can re-roll the dice. The small cars, however, when there's a certain action that you can take to shoot a car in front of you in one of the 3 spaces in front of you, like this car could shoot either of these 2 cars, or if a car were here, this blue car could shoot them. When that happens, there's a die that you roll to see if you actually hit your target, and that die has more results for large cars that you're aiming at than small cars because they're smaller, they're harder to hit. So small cars are harder to target. Large cars have the ability to re-roll certain dice when you're interacting with other cars on the road. So I really like this element of parity, size-based parity in the game for advantages between large and small cars. And the medium cars are nicely in the middle. They have a nice middle ground advantage between the small and the large vehicles. So yeah, those are my favorite mechanisms in my one play of Thunder Road Vendetta. I'd love to hear your thoughts if you play the game, if you have a different favorite mechanism or one that you'd like to highlight even more, or if any of these mechanisms remind you of another game. I'd love to hear your thoughts about them as well. Thanks.